Hello, everybody. Welcome to perFORM Music Incubator Podcast. perFORM Music Incubator is an artist development and music enterprise incubator, and we are here to develop the whole ecosystem of the music industry. I mean, artists, songwriters, producers, event producers, managers, publicists, the whole 9 yards. Today's episode, we talk about branding and marketing and publicity. And what does this really mean for an artist? What does it mean to be a brand? What is the difference between marketing and publicity? How do you grow as a brand? Can you be a brand when you're in a niche audience? Does a brand become? Is a brand engineered? How can you stay true to your artistry even as you grow? For this and so much more, join us. It's going to be a really good one. So now publicity is what, please?
So publicity, I guess, in artistry is what would be like PR, yeah? And it really boils down, you are asking about like marketing. So with marketing, their KPIs, you need to sell the album, X number of streams, or this is what you need to do. Now, PR is supposed to be earned media. So it's mutually beneficial to you and your publics, yeah? So I think now in the Kenyan industry, maybe things have changed a little. People, there's money exchanged for you to be on this thing. But ideally, the focus would be reputation building. So it is to say now, I as the brand, this is what I bring to the table. And these guys are like, yes, this is valuable to our audience. And for you as the artist, your audience is also part of this audience. Yeah. So if your audience is, let's say, not on 10 over 10, it is good for the publics, but it will be good for reputation building, but it might not tick the box for you on meeting your audience. Yeah. So I think sometimes this is where the machinery of industry comes in, is to curate, to say, actually, as a jazz artist, you have no business being on EATV or whatever, because the people you are looking for or the people who listen to you are not there. Yeah, but at the end of the day, the goal with publicity is to build your reputation. Now, whether that is I am the greatest songwriter, or you can relate to me in this way, I have lived through this interesting life, and that is how you can relate to me, or I'm a hustler, the come up, and that's what someone else identifies with. But ideally, it's also still very curated. I think many times people just want to do, I'm on this podcast about finance. But then I'm like, okay, so is it that you're creating a new audience?
Yeah, because now we have this thing called media run. Yeah, and it's very important to be seen to be doing a media run. And for a lot of artists, and like in this space, also, because we don't have a ubiquitous sound, so to speak, right? So everybody is on like their own tip. Even people in hip hop, like there's differentiation of the hip hop, right? But then somehow it seems like I actually don't know who told us. Somewhere along the way, we picked up the thought that we just need to be on media, because then there's also this other thing that we've been told over the years, which is all publicity is good publicity, right? So I just need to be as seen as possible, and whether that thing really aligns, and even what is the purpose of that being seen. I suppose this is the real question, where it's like, and then the answer that we were often given, I remember on the come up, is like, but that's marketing. So say, but is it publicity or is it marketing? Now I'm lost. And in fact, what is the difference between now marketing and publicity? Marketing, it's me who is saying, and then publicity, it's people who are saying, like, what's the actual difference?
Okay, so marketing is, I am a great lover.
Okay.
Yeah. Publicity or PR is, Nyambura is a great lover.
Oh.
Yeah. So marketing is me. I am the one telling you, this is how I'm so dope. This is...
So pick me.
Yeah, pick me. Yeah. But PR is, I believe Noni when she says Nyambura is dope.
So PR is what somebody else is the reputation, the word on the street.
Yes. So yes, you can appeal to the masses, because the masses is still part of the publics that are publicity. Yeah. But that person is also relying on the radio presenter you have gone to sit with. I believe that guy, he has good taste. So therefore, when he brings this person on and he says that you must stream their music, I will believe it. Yeah. So that is the difference. And that's not to say that, and I always say all these things have to be used together. You can't do one only and not the other. A big difference as well is in marketing, you're putting the money out. Yeah, you're paying for social media ads, whatever. But ideally, and I say ideally, for publicity, there should not be an it is because I believe in what you're doing that I have brought you on this thing. Sometimes it might be just that we need content for this 1 hour. Who is releasing something that we can bring
them.
Yeah, let's bring them. Yeah, but that speaks to the brand of now that thing, because now it means that they haven't differentiated for themselves or maybe their thing is just that we do hot things.
Correct.
Yeah. So there is a difference in that.
So publicity is earned.
Yes. It is earned. It should be earned media.
It's earned, but you still work for it. So you still have to send them a press release that makes sense for that show or for that audience that they're speaking to. So you still have to send them the press package with your photographs that look good, with video clips that look good, that they can stitch into things. So there's still work involved, but it's supposed to be for free. It's supposed to be earned, free technically, but there's still effort behind it.
But marketing is entirely it's me who is spinning the story. It's me telling you the version of the story I want you to know. So the way we use our
For a purchase.
Yes.
Publicity is not necessarily for a purchase.
Yeah.
Publicity is just, I am
It's
so and so.
it's long term.
For information, there's no outcome, there's no thing that you will be like, okay, remember I was saying about KPIs, you'll say now we have 200 streams.
So in fact, the media run is marketing and not publicity.
No, it's publicity.
It's publicity.
Marketing is you pushing an ad, say on Instagram,
Correct.
where I click and stream,
Correct.
which directly translates into money in your pocket.
So
Yes,
marketing
that's
results
marketing.
in a sale.
There has to be a sale.
Transaction.
There has to be a transaction. Yes.
Correct. So I'm communicating to close a certain deal with you.
$10
Correct.
here,
Yes.
I am expecting 20.
Correct.
by the end.
Yes. So Nation saying that digital is publicity. Nation telling you to subscribe
Is
and
marketing.
campaign is marketing.
Correct. That's very useful.
Yeah.
That's very useful. So then when you're picking your publicity, when you say, so now I have an album coming out and now I want to do a P. So I have a marketing plan
Yes.
to get audience to buy the music, to stream it, to whatever, to watch the video. And then I do a PR run to build my reputation as an artist, for people to know widely that I make this kind of music and this is what I'm about and this is what my brand is about. That's very insightful. I really hope you guys are feeling that I'm feeling. Ding! Okay. And then brand. Do you make it or does it become? Because I'm of the opinion that it becomes, because it's inherent to you. It's inherent, like, how can I put it? Like, so let's think Sauti Sol, right? So Sauti have been songwriters from the jump, right? In fact, this is why we all, okay.
No, we don't know that.
Not all. Let's say, us guys of Alliance Francaise, the ones, right? Who are loving them when they were rehearsing Lazizi. This is the thing that we loved about it, that, in a sea of the pop culture that was happening, there was this boys who were saying about they want to take me to Java. I really love them, as songwriters, and that's the thing that we understood about them. And then they've taken this journey, and on this last project, it's like, the songwriters now have even become, have matured as songwriters. So that's the thing that's still sort of fundamental. So then they've also had this huge growth in between, right? Where they also are like, okay, but also songs for Kenyans, right? So for me, there's always a question there for, is brand made or does brand become?
No, brand is made. Brand does not become.
Hey, we are going to have a discussion here. Hey,
it does not become. So just looking from, obviously, yes, as a fan, as you've described from the days of Alliance, etc., but looking at it in terms of an actual business, it's exactly what I was describing, where yes, there were these young, upcoming artists that were interesting, that were differentiated. Remember we said in the beginning, it has to be differentiated. It has to speak to a specific audience, right? The specific audience has always been and always will be women who are attracted to them. It's true. That's just the Sauti Sol brand, right?
We like love stories.
Yeah. They became sexy and hot, and then it moved, right? Like it's their
stories.
It's women that are attracted to them, right?
A different view, but it's
so that's specific audience, right? Cool. So they created that niche, that audience. They created the brand. They perfected their craft.
Indeed.
Right? By the time Marek was coming in and everybody else was coming in, they could move them to the next stage, right? Which was now, can we begin to have industry conversations? Okay. Can we begin to have a sound that also transcends this very niche audience that you're currently in, to begin to not only appeal to this very tiny audience of women who find you attractive, but also to become the songwriters that are played from everything from weddings to when I'm proposing to you,
correct,
right? To being able to actually collaborate with African artists and big African artists and still have that audience presence. That's the industry speaking, right? Now where they've now transcended to is the level, if they keep pushing it, is the artist. So now they've become a business. They have a reality TV show, they have their own label, right? They're morphing into artists in their own right, individual artists in their own right, with their own identities, right? And so that's what I meant by that's still very deliberate. It doesn't feel like it is, which is the purpose of a good quality brand, but it's still very, very, very...
So it should feel to me, who's the observer, like it's all happening organically, but what you're saying is the back end is actually very engineered.
Very engineered.
Okay. Interesting. In that case, then we're in agreement. So there is a big part of brand, I believe, that is like you're saying, in because those are now like the values, you know, the personality. But now when it comes to like culture, those are now things that are fabricated. It's still in your fabric as brand, but those are things that you're working at. So, and they might not always be seen, or sometimes it will take business, industry, machinery to now show those things. So there are aspects of brand that are inside. So like for Sauti Sol, even I was a fan when they were wedding singers, and the thing that drew me to them is that, I recognize Java. So for the first time in this kind of music, I'm not just listening to Indiari and it's Huko Far Away. Now I am able to understand and put my feelings, the things context that I know, my local context into this vibe. And I think that is the thing that has stayed consistent in their brand. They're still very who they are.
Correct.
And that's why we can understand and travel with them, because they're now not, we only sing in English and we will only talk about other places that you do not know. So that thing, it's also deliberate. For sure they must, but it's also because it is true to them.
That's nice. So brand has to be true to you.
It has to be. It has to be, because then now as it's being projected out, that's how you end up being fake. You know, if it was not true to you, you get tired.
I think that's also the other point. You kind of have to decide if this is for you.
What do you mean?
Because of the amount of work that it takes and the amount of heartbreak that it entails, you kind of have to decide, is this the thing for me, and is this the thing for me in the long haul? You have quite a few artists who, even when they break into the industry stage, you realize actually this thing was just not was just not for me. Right?
This is not the game I want to play.
It's not the game I want to play. I'm really not enjoying this. I'm unhappy, right? So I think there's also the question of asking yourself, A, what is my brand? Who am I? How am I working towards it? Cheers. But also really sitting with yourself and asking, is this the thing, the industry I want to be in? Is this the space I'm comfortable in? Because a lot of artists who are very happy in that niche space, they're not even bothered. Right? And you hear them even in movies, right? I like to think of Insecure. There's so many small artists in the Insecure playlist, right? And they're not really trying to, they're not trying to push beyond. So I think you need to start asking yourself, what is for me as I create this brand? And where am I comfortable, even in the long run? Like, where am I happy playing in? And as you go along, what am I willing to experiment on and stretch on?
Hey, okay.
That will compel you to keep doing it even when it's not earning.
Yes.
Or to keep doing it even when your audience remains at 200 for years. Yes. Because then you will continue to do it because it is the thing.
Correct.
That you have to do.
So then maybe I should bring, I had like 2 questions I was about to jump to, but I was like, wait, I think I should bring you guys a thing that I've often wondered about. So my own journey, and just what I want to ask in this question is an artist, I don't say allowed because they didn't ask anybody for permission, but in this process of, as the artist is understanding themselves and, you know, like trying and growing in their sound and in the things that they write about, and even moving in between genres, what does that do as a, hey, how do I not lose audience in this process of growing? Or is it actually okay if you're losing audience? Are we still building brand? So the question feels quite open-ended, but let me give the example and then, you know. So I remember when I started making music, I was making a variant of Afro soul, but I wanted it to have some spunk. I also felt like, come on, I needed it to have some spunk. So when me and Wawesh Mjanja met, it was just like, you know, it was sparks. You know, we made stuff like Mikono Kwenye Hewa. It was very just like edgy, fun. We didn't really have a genre in mind. We were just enjoying the vibes, and it felt very true to both of us, right? And I thought that there was a true recognition for that. When we tried to interface with the industry, so at that point, our understanding of industry was radio, the amplifier, because that was so important. And continues to be, but I suppose, you know, YouTube is now the most important media. And, you know, other streaming platforms, obviously. The industry said, no, Kenyans can't listen to somebody like you, right? So what we didn't know at that point, which I suppose I now know, is that what they were saying is that we don't sit with the audience, that you, what you're doing, sawa, us who we sit with, so these things won't necessarily derive value from one another, right? But the way it was phrased, because our understanding then was that radio sat with all the data of the users, is that if they say that you're not part of this thing, then you're really truly not part of this thing. Then 1 year later, MTV comes and says, actually, we want to nominate you for Best East Africa because this thing is so revolutionary. We love it so much. It's so ahead. So there was quite a lot of, you know, disconnect. And so for some years there, I just lived in this no man's land, because it's like, turns out it's not Kenyan enough, but like those guys of outside over there, they understand it. So it felt like there was a failure, right? Because how come those guys understand it and you guys don't understand it? And me, I'm a Kenyan and I'm meant to be talking to you guys. So, you know, a mismatch of audience, I suppose, and expectations. Then now fast forward a little, I put out a song called Welcome to the Disco. I had more or less, you know, a bit of that. I had grown a bit of tougher skin. So now when you told me, I was like, I don't care. But then shortly after that, there was a South African artist. I think she's Sigabo, Achigaleda, Chimideda, Achikadeda, Chikadeda, Sigabo. You remember this artist? And so then I was in a car driving somewhere, and I remember this radio station. And these 2 presenters are talking at length. They're like, I could have sworn that's MDQ. That's not Muthoni Drummer Queen. What do you mean? That babe has Jack Muthoni Drummer Queen style. So I remember pulling up to the side of the road and crying furiously because I'm like, so it means you know what it does, what it is, what time it is, but you won't make the space, or I've never really known how to interpret that. So then at that point, I was pretty much like, forget this music stuff. I wasn't sure where it was going. My next project ended up being a hip hop project, completely by chance. I wasn't intending it to be. I just kind of segued. As an artist, you're just trying things. The thing you're trying is working out. Nai had incredible resonance, right? With like people who are like manze, and also a very male audience. And that was like, oh, that's new, not extremely surprising, I suppose, because of the roots of hip hop, but the resonance was, and it felt like almost there was no connection between now this world that had understood at Welcome to the Disco to this world that was sort of hip hop. And this hip hop world then now felt like, oh, you've let us down. How come you don't release more songs? I say, I do. They're just not that hip hop song that you had. And they're like, umenyamaza sana. So I've always wondered about these things as an artist. Are you not allowed to transition styles? How do you transition audiences? Yeah, I've really given a background. This in there somewhere is a point.
So there are two things you have to think about here. One is the culture of media. Right? So media, I think for us in our age, we've lived through all the cycles of Kenyan media, right? From when TV used to start at 4 p.m., right?
Indeed. Like a gift.
Right? Like a gift, start at 4 p.m. We knew we had a short window of time of entertainment before the president and the vice president, and everybody else, and all the rallies, and Utna, right? So you have what is media tradition, right? And so media tradition in Kenya has really, really leapfrogged from that time to what we're seeing now.
Correct.
Now even media is forced to compete for audience. It's forced to compete for eyes, for attention, for niche, right? And so we're beginning to see even media brands that are in themselves becoming brands, more distinct, more audience focused, more channel specific focused. So you'll find some media audiences, some media brands are like us, we're just going to focus on digital, right? We're digital first. For others, it's, we still believe that there's not enough content coming from rural areas. So we're going to register for Signal in Meru and have people from Meru town being the content creators, etc., from that place, right? So media tradition has changed, number one. So the media you were probably dealing with then is not the media now. The media now also has to compete. So you'll find they have more or rather certain ones have more aptitude towards you, right? That said, on the brand side, the artist side, and I'm going to take this back to say like the mass product, right? If you've noticed, even mass products these days will tell you with perFORM, vitamin E, C, D, like, right? The Omo you first had is not the Omo you're seeing now, right?
Gentle on your
Exactly.
hands, like moisturizing.
We have Coke Zero, Coke Light, Coke this and that, etc., right? So even on the brand side, even the big mass consumer brands, they too are evolving. Because the blue band of the metal tin, that's what I was saying, for us, we've seen like the iteration of all of these products, right? The blue band of the metal tin cannot cut it in the Kenya of now.
Correct.
They have to have chocolate, they have to have sachets, they have to have, is it now they're selling oats? Or what was it I was seeing the other day, right? Peanut butter, mayonnaise, right? Because you're realizing as a brand, even your SKUs sort of have to increase. Your brand identities have to speak to the palates, the tastes of a completely different and more discerning audience, right? And so we're not giving ourselves grace, I think, on both sides, right? We're not giving ourselves the acknowledgement that we've actually really shifted and shifted very fast. And even in marketing rooms and brand rooms, it's very difficult. I remember even when we were doing, I won't say the name, but when we're launching this youth telco, right? As the people sitting in there that were supposed to be the youthful ones in the room, right? We realized actually we were not young Kenyans. Why? We had been corporatized from a very young age.
Correct.
The people who were in that room who were young were people who, you moved from an internship, you got this job, you worked in an agency, you did ABCD. So your identity of what a Kenyan youth is going through, who'll probably get his first decent job, say at 30, is so different from you sitting in the most profitable company in sub-Saharan Africa.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So we were thinking, this thing needs to be, which is the space we were in when we were young, it needs to be a party brand. But then when we started talking to young people, they told us, actually, for me, it's that people don't take my hustle seriously. I don't want to be a lawyer, doctor, teacher, etc. Right? I've been partying since God knows when. Because this is a young audience that has had liberties that we didn't have. Or that we imposed restrictions on ourselves because I had to wake up and be at the agency. So you guys, I'm leaving you guys at size, goodbye, right? I'm leaving you at this place at, Bacchus, because I actually have client meetings. Yeah. Whereas for my friends, if I remember, my friends just used to go, in fact, they come and sleep in my house because I'm the one who's earning. I'm the one with the flat, right? Completely different reality. Yeah. Right? So you also have to see that even for marketers themselves, the people making these decisions, even they are confused, right? Because so much has changed, what I was describing, from the metal tin to, right? And that's the same person that you're hearing is now a marketing director. The person who ran the metal tin is the marketing director in this country.
Correct.
Right? The person who used to deal with KBC 4 o'clock. So they're like 7 p.m. up on the card. But I remember even when I used to work, I used to be told, if we're not on page 6 Nation, and I'm like, but that doesn't matter. What matters is if somebody turns on their phone, if our ads are not there, we have a problem with the audience we're dealing with. But for them, it's like, no, but page 6.
Correct.
So that's what we're dealing with.
Correct.
Yeah.
In addition now to the brand, I think the thing that, like in the example you're giving of yourself, is there's still Muthoni. Muthoni was both those things. You had both these projects, yeah? And so there is that thing about you that transcends the genre. And that is now where I would say that is brand, yeah? Because you can do many different things. But the true value or the core thing that you bring to all these things is the thing that is your brand.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not that now I'm hip hop, so I've changed brand. Now it's more like dance. Before it was Afro soul. So that you're shifting your brand every time. I would say actually your brand is traveling on all of these genres.
Correct.
There is. And sometimes when people are like, I don't know how to define the unique selling proposition, it's because you're looking at it from that lens of a genre or, a font or color or, my style, yeah? But brand supersedes that, yeah? It's, I work hard or I believe in the empowerment of the disenfranchised. That will carry in whichever beat you put it, whatever you lay it on, whatever your face looks like when you sing it, that thing transcends. So I would challenge that. That was not that your brand was changing. And yes, the audience can change. But the people who are able to tap into the thing that carries over all of those, that's the real audience. Yeah. So they might say, okay, I was with you for this section. I was with you for this project. You will even find new people who will discover that other project because now that's where they are at. And I think that's okay. Then there is the core fan who, it doesn't matter what you say, what you sing. If it's a video, if it's a lyric video, we are there, yeah? So I don't think sometimes, and that's now where we were discussing, is it the audience that comes first? Is it?
Yes, because in fact, that was going to be my follow-up question. So what's the role of audience? Where do we get audience in?
So again, it's about being very specific on the consistency of your message for a consistent audience. So I think of somebody like Major. I have literally grown up with Major, right?
For sure.
Right now, he speaks to so many audiences, including me still, right? He's moved from what I can call a boy band, from who he was to a boy band. He's come out. right? He's now doing very interesting content around partying, right? But at the end of the day, Major is a storyteller. You check in because you're like, I want to hear the story of the day translated in a very specific way. And that has never changed. Indeed. That's why when even a national holiday was being declared, who was trending? Major, because everyone is like, now we want the song that for the club, but that tells me a story that's funny. Yeah. That's his brand, and it has transcended any and all channels, any and all change across the decades, and it will continue to do so.
Okay. Right. Is that intentional on his part? In terms of storytelling, yes, certainly the artistry, but like, is this how as an artist should you perceive that? Is that him saying, I now want to also speak to this audience? Yes. So purpose, me still, but for this audience.
I would say definitely yes. If you've watched his interview where he speaks of the tumblers, and he says, I am very specific about the brand, the quality of the product. I want people to feel a certain way when they hold that tumbler. He's had pressure for that tumbler for years, right? Or rather the line of tumblers. But he's not jumping into it just because people have said. He's thinking through it. And that shows you that he has always done that. And that is what has guaranteed the longevity.
Correct. So you don't have to be afraid about switching genre as an artist or playing within genre, as long as the thing that is you is carried across.
Yes.
Very nice. Okay, now my last question. I'm just here like I have so many questions. Okay, but the last question I have to ask is, so now we are all on Zuckerberg apps, okay? And Drax apps. Now, what are we doing on these apps? Is it branding? Is it marketing? Is it PR? Is it a combination? Like, what am I doing on the apps?
Channels are channels.
Yeah, tell us about that, please.
Channels, it doesn't matter what the channel is, right? As marketers, we've moved from, in fact, people usually move into a new channel with the old channel approach. When TV first came out, because we're used to print, people used to create adverts that looked like a newspaper print. They didn't realize, right?
Seeing on TV is different.
Like you need to think like a movie person, a cinema person, right? They didn't. So even as marketers, you just put the print ad there on the TV because that's what you know. Right? And you move. And then as it evolves, you learn, this is how I'm supposed to do it. Yeah. Currently, the problem that a lot of marketers have is they think that you approach digital with the same TV ad. So what I saw on TV is what you even put on YouTube and everything else. Of course, I'm going to skip. Yeah? Let's begin there. First of all, I probably have ad blocker and I'm going to skip.
Yeah.
So then what have marketers decided to do? They're like, they have ad blockers, they're skipping. Let's play in the influencer space. A little bit too late, and even the way they're playing is still very broadcast. Come stand here with this bottle and say, and put 316 hashtags. Correct. Right? And this person has moved from this to that and you don't really care, right? You're catching up late. Correct. And I think that's the thing about, I think even artists, is you forget your content creators by norm. You're trying to think like a marketer like me, who's trying to catch up, right? And so therefore you create a billboard that just looks like a billboard.
Correct.
You put the YouTube ad of the whole song in the middle of another song I'm listening to. Who told you I wanted to see you? Like you've seen those ads, right?
Of course.
You're now beginning to think like us, which you shouldn't. You're actually really interesting content creators. So then how can you stop looking at the channel per se and look at what people are typically doing on the channel as marketers and think about, how can I deliver this experience, this thing, in such a way that nobody will ignore it or feel like it's being interruptive? And that's what I would encourage artists to actually do and think about, as opposed to, the typical marketing push. Because also you have to remember, us mass marketers, we have a ton of money. I can spam you for a whole month.
You will outspend me at every level.
I remember when guys are complaining like, my name is Olive, I'm Drummer. My friend, the amount of money I have to spam you until you recognize the brand.
Indeed.
Is very different from you. You cannot afford to interrupt. I can. I I can put billboards across the country.
Yeah, and also like when I'm just
You
trying
are
to watch
picking
my
three.
YouTube ad and they're just there telling me about your food delivery service. I'm like, I've had 1,000. Stop telling me
I can
anymore.
afford that. You can't as an artist. You cannot afford to spend money on interruption because you won't get the cut through that matters, because the amount of frequency we can afford in mass is not the same as you. You're not competing with Safaricom, with Airtel, with Uber
Bolt.
Eats, with Bolt. Yeah, and then now your song.
Yeah.
People are just going to skip, I promise you. Your billboard is in the same noise audience as all of these other huge major brands.
So then what am I meant to be doing there? So the insight you're saying is like, first I have to stop thinking like you.
Yes.
Urgently.
Yes.
Okay. And now I need to think, how do I do something that is so experienced and like dope? It's not actually an interruption.
Yes. So I think of Octopizzo's billboard that stopped me. The one that was in Westlands.
Yeah.
That actually, because we
for
watched
the new project.
Yeah, if you're in Westlands quite a bit at that time, you watched them painting it, and it was interesting. And so people were actually taking photos of it and putting it online, asking, "What is this? What's happening?" By the time it came out, it was like, right, that's interesting. But a generic billboard with you and album now out.
Yeah, so there's that also, I think, like, for all your channels.
I'm dead, guys. And then we are like, platforms give us billboards, and now you guys are like, stop, use your time better. Yeah.
I was going to say the other thing is also insights.
Yeah.
It's very important for you to, if you're already on these platforms or these channels, you have information that you can use to make sure that you're hitting the right spot. Yeah. So your users, what do they usually interact with more? Is it when they see your face, or it's only when they see your album covers? So I think there's a lot of insight you can get from what you are already putting out there. Is it the vlogs about your life that people are more interested in, based on the likes, on the shares, on the engagement? And then you can make, I think a lot of people just want to be like, I have money, this is the ad I've decided to sponsor. That's also not wise. Yeah, and part of that is machinery, but also if you're just you yourself, Msanii, everything is you, there are things you can, these channels have their own native tools where you can be like, oh, when I post at 5 p.m., more people will see than if I post at 3 a.m. or whatever the case may be. So I think also having smarter ways of putting out innovative content, that's the first thing, that it has to be different from what.
So again, going back to differentiation.
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, so now I have my song that is differentiated, amazing, but I also have to think about the campaign.
Yes. Think of even how Lil Nas uses Twitter. It's hilarious. He's the funniest artist I follow.
Yeah.
Like, he's charming, he's engaging, he understands it's a platform for trolls, so he trolls.
Yes.
You have to have that kind of savvy. Right? His album really was marketed by conservatives.
Being annoyed the team.
Yeah, it was marketed by conservatives. He just trolled them. And that was it.
Correct.
They bit and it just moved.
Correct. And he would have not had the money to spend.
Think of even WAP. It was marketed by conservatives.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. So that goes literally to the content, but then it only worked because that was authentic to those specific artists.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So Cardi could and Megan could pull off WAP because it's consistent with who they've been and what they talk about. Okay, I just feel like me personally now, I don't know why I was not writing these things. Thank you so much. Hey, that's a lot of insight. Industry, that's a lot of insight. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
And these are the kind of things that happen now. You see the way I'm being blown here, and I've already done the class with them when we did the branding class and the PR class and the marketing class at perFORM. So I hope we will see you in another season of perFORM as our facilitators. And you guys, when we announce that there's another cohort, apply. It's these guys who teach you things. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.